Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
What the f?
Part 91. This is the Wasp from Marvel Comics, and recently I talked about her bout with domestic violence, and how the infamous slap from her husband was an accident. However, this has been done multiple times before, and it wasn't an accident. Let me explain. In Ultimates issue 6, written by Mark Millar, you can see Hank Pym slaps Janet again. And he actually is remorseful. Until she elbows him in the nose and then hits him in the face with a piece of machinery. She bites him, he slaps her back, she shrinks down and begins blasting him, until he hits her with some bug spray, where she then goes to cower under a desk, where he retrieves his helmet and commands an army of ants to begin swarming her. He then just kind of has this blank expression about the whole thing. But really, what did we expect from the writer of the book where Aunt May cheats on Uncle Ben with his brother Richard, gets pregnant with a baby Peter Parker, gives it back up to the father and stepmother to raise, and then gets with Uncle Ben in the future? Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
Hey yo, what the f?
Part 92. This is Kara Zor-El, otherwise known as Superman's cousin. And today we're going to be talking about the time these two cousins got a little too close. Let me explain. Back in 1962, Kara, otherwise known as Superwoman at this time, was on a mission to find Superman a wife. And he said if I ever did marry, he'd want it to be someone just like her. But he can't because they're cousins. Even though he even says some countries on Earth allow cousins to get married. Gross. They can't because of Kryptonian law. But here's the thing, that doesn't stop every version of Superman. Let me explain a little more. Some versions of Superman aren't in love with Lois Lane or even Lana Lang. They're in love with his cousin. Yeah, just remember that these two in fact are from Space, Alabama. They're fully aware of their blood relation, and some versions even get married. Superman. Truth, justice, and the Alabama way. This is Luma Linnae, a character from 1962 who once appeared in Superman comics. You might be thinking to yourself, wow, she looks really familiar. Well, that's because she's basically a doppelganger of Superman's cousin, Supergirl. Now here's where it actually gets messed up. As you can see by this cover, Superman is madly in love with Laura Linney. And Supergirl here is commenting on how strange it is that she looks exactly like her when she was growing up. But here's where that's kind of BS. Because as I previously mentioned, Superman said that if he was to marry anyone, he would want to marry his own cousin. I know, crazy. Moving on. It was actually Supergirl trying to find a wife for Superman that found Luma Linnae in the first place. And she even says that this is a Superwoman duplicate of her, meaning they're still pretty much the same person. The two actually hit it off pretty well, which is not shocking considering they're basically related. But they couldn't be together because Earth's yellow sun is her kryptonite. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
What the f is that?
Part 94. This is Batman Confidential, issue number 18. And before we continue, let me explain how we get here. Catwoman and Batgirl got into a fight after Barbara Gordon stole her father's journal, which Selina stole from her. And after a bit of a fight and chase, Selina ends up ducking into a building, where it was a no clothing allowed place. So Barbara had to adapt. Babs thinks to herself, what would Batman do? And begins to take action. She ditches her costume, except for apparently the mask, which, okay, and begins going through the club looking for Selina. Understandably, trying to avoid as many people as possible. She has eyes on target and begins to pursue. But she says she needs a distraction, so she takes out the lights. And she was able to get Commissioner Gordon's journal, before basically starting an all-out brawl. She then decides it's time to get out of Dodge and starts throwing hands like she's at a Waffle House. Even hitting someone in the face with a wired home phone. Okay. Before getting her costume and getting out scot-free. All written by the co-creator of Deadpool. This is Incredible Hulk, issue number 608. And in this issue, Red She-Hulk pulls one of the cheapest, dirtiest tricks on Domino. But let me explain. In this issue, we see that Domino as well as Elektra are fighting Red She-Hulk while MODOK watches. Elektra throws some shuriken at Red She-Hulk, which just makes her more angry, as it kinda shreds her clothes. So what would a giant, fiery, red, hulking being do in this situation? Well, she does the only thing possible. She grabs Domino and rips her clothes off. For no reason. I mean, really, she wasn't even the one who shredded her clothes. That was Elektra. Thankfully, Elektra comes in and saves Domino from being crushed at the last second, and Doc Samson comes in to rip out the side that Elektra put in Red She-Hulk's back. And the reason that she did all of this to Domino? To steal her clothes. But as you can see, they obviously didn't fit well. You know, bit of a size difference there. This is the Marvel Comics character, Squirrel Girl, and today we're talking about the time she sent a proposition of sorts to Daredevil. Let's start this story off with a little context. In this page, we can see there's a history between Squirrel Girl and Wolverine. and it looks like it's a little more adult, if you know what I mean. However, it was later retconned that apparently he just stole a taxi from her. Okay, whatever, moving on. Squirrel Girl's pictured here holding the baby of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Later on, we see Daredevil interacting with Squirrel Girl. They're in the same home, and she's holding the same baby. And she wants to thank him for saving her. However, that's where things start to take a turn. She asks him, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he responds with, "How old are you?" Squirrel Girl then responds with, "Old enough to thank you for saving my life."
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
You might think, Alex, that's not messed up, but she's like 14. This is Felicia Hardy, otherwise known as the Black Cat. And along with MJ over here, she's a longtime on-again, off-again girlfriend of Spider-Man. And don't worry, friends, I can already hear you now. This really doesn't have anything to do with Spider-Man, but you'll see why. This all goes back to an arc called The Evil That Men Do, where we get a life of the college years of Felicia Hardy. We see on her first day, this drunk guy tried to assault her, and she was saved by this boy over here, named Ryan. And needless to say, she was immediately smitten by his chivalry. The two of them soon began to spend all of their time together, whether it be playing basketball, going out for a movie, studying, or going out to dinner. She said he was such a gentleman, and he might be the one. Except he wanted to take it a little further, and she didn't. But he did not stop. And as you can see by these panels, she wasn't able to stop him. This incident is what caused her to become the Black Cat and track Ryan down and take him out. This is the Black Widow from Marvel Comics. And, as we all know, one of her best friends in the world is Hawkeye. But unfortunately, their close bond isn't always a canon event. Let me explain. That's right, friends. In a surprise to absolutely no one, we're going back to the Ultimate Universe. It really is just the gift that keeps on giving. But let's continue. Hawkeye was in the kitchen with his family when there's a ring at the doorbell, which his wife goes to answer, because she believes that it's the Scarlet Witch coming back to pick up her purse. However, she was absolutely wrong because it was a team of mercenaries that took her out on the spot, before saying there are 2 kids upstairs. Go get them. And busting out the window of the kitchen where Hawkeye was with his son. Hawkeye tries to defend himself and rescue his son, utilizing the utensils around him. I mean, he even throws a meat cleaver at that guy. Good lord. After taking out the remaining thugs in the kitchen, Hawkeye's son is taken out right in front of him. You might be thinking, what does this have to do with Black Widow? Well, she put the hit on his family, and he got his revenge. Messed up moments in comics that made us go,
What the f is that?
Part 99. This is Frank Castle, the Punisher. And today we're looking at the Marvel Max version of this character, so you know it's going to be fun. Let's get into it. Today's story starts off at the grave of his wife and 2 kids. And that's where we see this man, Nicky Cavella. Together with another thug, they record themselves digging up the grave of the Castles. Meanwhile, we catch up with Frank doing typical Punisher stuff. And of course, this is Marvel Max, so there's cursing and lots of violence. We then see a news report going over the fact that the castle's grave has been robbed. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say robbed, actually. As you can see here, the skeletons are exhumed. And that's when we see that Nicky Cavella urinates on the skeletons of Frank Castle's family. And this is Frank's face while this is all going on. Cavella did all of this just to get Frank's attention.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So Frank tracks him down, blows his gut out, and leaves him in the woods. Once again, all coming to you from the writer of The Boys.